Good evening and welcome to the Duluth School Board regular school board meeting starting at 6:36 today. I'll turn it over to the clerk to call roll.
Member Banks.
Here.
Chair Durek-Eater.
Here.
Member Loeffler-Kemp.
Here.
Vice Chair Lofold.
Here.
I'm Clerk Meixel. I am here. Treasurer Sadowski.
Here.
Member Williams.
Here.
Superintendent Magus.
Present.
Assistant Superintendent Bonds.
Present.
Deputy Clerk Zunich.
Present.
Board Secretary Paquette. Here. And our student representatives from ALC, Osiris Garcia Henderson. Welcome. Our Dunfeld student rep, Tamia Bowles, is excused, and our East student rep, Kalina Matala.
Here.
I got it right. Thank you.
Now, if you're able, please stand and we'll say the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We will now move on to an approval of the agenda. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Member Loeffler-Kemp has moved to approve the agenda. Do we have a second?
Second.
Ooh, I'm going to do Member Banks has seconded the motion. Do we have any discussion on the approval of the agenda? Seeing no discussion on the approval of the agenda, all those in favor of approving the agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The agenda has passed as approved. Now moving on, we'll turn it over to Assistant Superintendent Bonds for school and community recognition.
Good evening, everyone. This month, we do not have a recognition for this month, so just wanted to.
Thank you. Moving on from school and community recognition, we'll move on to the report of the superintendent.
Thank you. And the best part is our student reports. So let's start with our student reports. Who would like to go first?
Good evening, everyone. Many students, such as myself, are all trying to get back into the regular school schedule and remember what was taught to us before winter break. I would like to begin my report by talking about activities going on at East. Right before break, student government announced our Red and Gray Spirit Week theme, which is Stranger Things Are Happening at East, which you can probably guess is based off the Netflix show Stranger Things. We also revealed our 10 top dog candidates who were nominated by the senior class for exemplifying positive qualities and school spirit. I'm excited to see who our 3 winners will be at the end of our Red and Gray Spirit Week. 3 of our sports teams made it to state right before we left for break, which meant we had 3 dog runs. If you are unfamiliar with what dog runs are, it is how we congratulate our peers for making it to state. Usually, those students, they run through the halls as both jazz band and the drumline play music, and cake is handed out by student government afterwards. I've only heard positive feedback about dog runs, and I'm glad that we have the ability to do them. The 3 we had before break were for alpine ski, Nordic ski, and dance team. Even though none of the teams won, they still had amazing performances and experiences. We have another dog run set for boys swim this Thursday. From the swim team, senior Joey Zellin set both section and team records when he won both events at their section final. Unfortunately, both boys and girls hockey seasons recently ended. Boys and girls basketball are still working hard before sections, which will begin shortly. In a couple of weeks, senior August Cusin will be representing Duluth East at state for the math team. Looking over at fine arts, speech and debate have been hard at work as well. Auditions were just held for a spring play, which is called The Little Prince. If you would like to support our students, please check out the Duluth East activities calendar to learn more. I'm excited to announce that our students in Point of View are having Denfeld's Golds Group join us on our next pause day during 3rd and 4th hour. East Students Point of View, also known as POV, is a group of about 30 students and a few members from our administration that meet once a month to discuss school issues. These students bring in diverse perspectives and new ideas every meeting. Denfeld has something very similar, but it is called Golds Group. We are very excited to discuss ways we can collaborate and hear more about the issues that they are experiencing and identify potential solutions. More positive news, student government has rescheduled our community service project to April 19th. It will be spring themed instead of winter, and I'll have more details about that next month. Unfortunately, I was not able to receive a lot of student input throughout this past month. I was only able to host one student forum meeting on our last pause day. As most of you know, there are still issues surrounding our pause days for our students. For those unfamiliar, East has one Wednesday a month called pause days, during which regular classes are shortened to 32 minutes. We only have two 40-minute block periods where students can attend clubs, one in the morning and one in the afternoon. As an officer of Key Club, which currently has about 200 students enrolled into, I need to be present for meetings, which are always held during the second block. This only leaves me with one block period to meet with students during school hours. I held it during the morning pause, which already had numerous other clubs and activities happening. The first meeting of prom-com was occurring, which is a highly attended club, as were volleyball intramurals, regular study halls because teachers still teach during pause days, a PSEO informational meeting, among other clubs and activities. I know our previous student rep, Kate Dean, sent out a Google form asking students for their opinions on this new schedule. She received a lot of negative feedback. I plan on creating a new form to gather more feedback from students and even teachers that are going on at East. I intend to hold one more student forum meeting a month in the morning to hopefully gain more participation, but I recognize that some students have other morning commitments and transportation could also be an issue. I did, however, still gain some input from a couple of students at the one meeting I held. We have now switched into semester 2, which means all of us have at least one new class. Some students have experienced challenges in the new schedule, whether that is not having enough room or time for all the electives they want, having new teachers for the same subjects, study halls being overcrowded, not being able to fit everything in one day, teachers incorrectly marking students tardy on the very first day of the semester, and more. It has been brought to my attention that many students are struggling so far this semester, mainly because of getting new teachers for the same subjects and getting acclimated to the new expectations. I understand that classes can be crowded, but I know it is also difficult to switch teachers in the middle of the year, especially because some have different expectations. After the January school board meeting, I thought a lot about lunch lines. An issue now resolved that students were facing was that one lunch had about 100 more people than the other. A couple fourth-hour classes were all switched into the other lunch so they could even it out. Now, a month later, students said gray lunch is still very packed and red lunch is not. Some students are getting their lunch 10 minutes before it ends, and they don't feel like they are getting enough time. It has also been brought to my attention that they run out of lunch often, so the later lunch sometimes will only have one option to choose from. I understand that lunch is free, but if we are giving that as an option, we should be able to have enough food for every student. Students agreed that having separate lunch lines for every food option will be more effective. One of my biggest goals is to increase student voice. I want to collaborate with Real Talk from Ordine and talk as much as I can to other East students to really understand the real issues going on in our schools. I want to help encourage students to speak up and not be afraid to share their questions, opinions, or concerns. I also want to speak more with those in special education and learn more about how I can help them. I want to talk to those in clubs, sports, fine arts, and those who are not as involved to understand the differences in people's experiences at East. The last issue I would like to address is from our Sweetheart Dance that was held at the Clyde Ironworks on February 7th. A couple of students brought to my attention that our administration wasn't checking tickets after about 30 minutes. They kept telling students that they could just go through and they weren't properly checking if those students went to East or had a guest form. Some students also mentioned that it felt like chaperones weren't doing much to keep out those who are under the influence. I know everyone wants to have a fun and safe time at our dances, so I hope these are things that we can keep in mind for the future. You have the ability to balance your perspectives with our perspectives. Students will keep questioning decisions, and I will do my best to help them understand why they're put in place. I know you all work to try and represent the best interests of our students. Those efforts need to keep including a genuine and consistent commitment to listening to all students. Many students have unique insights and perspectives that can significantly enhance the effectiveness of our school. When students feel heard and valued, it creates a more engaging and positive learning environment. I urge you all to continue on actively seeking out, listening to, and thoughtfully considering student feedback. It is important to not only hear it, but to embrace it. Thank you all for this opportunity and your time.
Superintendent, your mic's not on.
My apologies. Sorry, I was trying to flip through here, but just wanted to say thank you for your report, Ms. Madela and Osiris Garcia Henderson. If you'd like to share just a little bit about yourself. I know this is your first time, but if there's anything else you want to share about ALC, you're welcome to share whatever you would like.
I don't think I have anything really to share. I don't.
And we're still meeting with various student reps, and we'll have a great chance to meet and catch up on things and go from there. But we're so pleased to have both of you here tonight. Thank you. Thank you both. Yes, go ahead.
A quick question, if I may, Chair, for our East representative. And this may be a higher level answer that I'm seeking related to the food lunch dilemma or concern. We want our students to eat lunch without being rushed, and I'm very concerned about the portion that it sounds like to me that is rushed, and students are not getting, potentially not getting fed over the lunch hour. I suppose I'm asking this to administration or someone. Is there a way to fix this? Is it flexible, or is there any remedy to making sure our students get fed, especially over the lunch hour?
I would be glad to have Executive Director Zunich look into this. We did have some issues at Ordine Middle School earlier this year, and happy to report that we added a new lunch line and sped things up, and so we're always looking for efficiencies. I know our three areas that we focus on are supporting every student, advancing equity, and improving systems. So this is a systems piece that we of course want to make sure that we're ensuring that our students are fed. Is there anything? We'll look into it, and we'll see if we have any more information before the end of the night, or report to the board soon afterwards.
Thank you.
And Member Sadowski?
Just wanted to say I appreciate you looking into that. I, with a student at East myself, and I've shared that at the board table, that the lines are prohibitive for some students. So thank you for looking into that.
And yes, I was pleased. We were at Ordine East, and we were noticing that the lines were slow, and it was kind of chaotic because people were in line for such a long time and not getting a chance to get out. And so we actually put in an additional window over break, and greatly enhanced things, and got a lot of positive feedback from the staff and students about how things are going there. So we're always looking to try and make those improvements, and Executive Director Zunich will talk to us more about that. Well, to go from positive to something that is not as pleasant, we're going from our student reports onto an update on our budget reductions and our needs there. Also, a little bit on legislative update, and an update related to some litigation that the district is involved in, and then anything else that would need to be discussed. Regarding our budget update, basically we're in a challenging situation. We are really looking at a $4 million funding gap, and that's something that we shared out. We shared information. We've been sharing information throughout the past few weeks, but on Monday, our newsletter talked about the budget gap, and then knowing that we were going to share with the board tonight on this, we sent some information as well to our staff and our families. But we're looking at a $4 million gap. And those are basically because of state funding and legislative mandates not keeping pace with operating costs. And some of the key drivers in this are, and I'm not trying to make an example of health insurance. I know our benefits are really solid, and that's one of the things that keeps our staff here. So we're not trying to polarize around that. But the truth is that our costs have gone up and are going up. We don't have our definitive number, but we're looking at a 15% increase, which would be about $2 million. So that is something that we've had to budget for and something that we need to consider. We also have had some issues with transportation logistics. When there are bus route cancellations, we have to send those routes to our other providers, and so basically we end up paying double for those routes. So that's one piece. And then special education services, again, sometimes it's hard to talk about things that are sensitive without frustrating some people. And I know when I sent my newsletter, some people felt like I was trying to polarize people against special ed, saying that because special education students have additional needs, that somehow they were the problem. And I clearly want to say, as a superintendent, as a former special education educator, and as a parent of a special education student, that was not my intent. And I don't think it was widely received that way. But special education, the needs are significant, and what we find is that they're not fully funded by the state. We get about 60 cents on the dollar through the special education cross-subsidy. So for every dollar that we're spending beyond what we get for the federal funding, we are only getting a 60-cent reimbursement. So it's not saying that the special education students are the problem, not at all. We have the moral, ethical obligation to make sure that we're serving all students, especially our students with special needs, but the costs are not being reimbursed by the state, and that's where the ethics falls into place and where we want to call that into question. So really, we need to make sure that we're optimizing our resource allocation and thinking about reducing spending for the coming year. We have a guiding change document, and we can make sure it's linked in and shared out later as well. But our guiding change document talks about student first things that we're looking at, trying to make sure that our classrooms are that we're holding up our referendum promises, and that we're trying to mitigate impacts directly on the classrooms. Those are things that we're looking at. And we're also looking at trying to evaluate long-standing practices to consider more cost-effective alternatives. Examples of that are there are many, but really trying to seek efficiencies, trying to make sure that we are, when we're looking at maybe subscription services that we're not using in full, to reduce those subscription services, just as an example. But it will impact staff. It'll impact administration. It'll impact support staff. It'll impact teaching staff, unfortunately, because 85% of our budget is staff and benefits. So we are in that situation where we're having to make those changes. Some people might be wondering, well, why Duluth? Is Duluth having a problem in and of itself? But there are many, many districts across the state. Almost every district is in the same boat. If you go to an MASA conference, if you go to an AMSD meeting, you're hearing the same thing. I spoke with the superintendent from Prior Lake Savage, who their district is the same size as ours. They've reduced $5 million every year for the past 3 years. So, or you look at Minneapolis Public Schools was recently in the news. They're having to reduce for next year by $50 million for next year. And even though they're proportionately larger than us, they're quite a bit larger. That would be equivalent to us having to reduce by about 10 million. So we are doing a lot of things to keep our house in financial order. But unfortunately, some of the ways that the state funds education and some of the rising costs are presenting challenges, and we're in a state where we have to really address those challenges quickly. So when we're looking at how we'll do this, again, we're trying to protect the children's daily learning experience, trying not to do things that are going to vastly impact class size. We're also looking at trying to make sure that we're continuing to look through a lens of equity and providing support for students who need it most. We also are trying to make sure that we are valuing the academic and mental health supports for our students. Those were some things that we had promised during the referendum previously, and we're not going to go back on those referendum promises. Those are things that are very important to us. And we also have to, again, as I said, sometimes we do things because it's the way we've always done them, yet there are efficiencies that we can find and things that we can do to improve those systems. And so thinking about even an example from last time when we had budget reductions, we were doing a lot of contracting out for our painting services, and it costs a lot of money, and we actually found it was cheaper for us to hire a painter than to contract out to different companies to do the painting we needed. So sometimes just because we've done it in a certain way doesn't mean it's the way that we always need to do it. It's also important for us to take feedback. We're looking at using, as you know, we've been using a tool called Thought Exchange, and we're going to be using Thought Exchange to gather additional feedback from students or from staff and families. And we're also going to have a couple of night events. So we're looking at 6 p.m. events at Denfeld and East on March 11th and March 16th. And then we'll also have staff meetings to talk about the budgeting process and answer questions on March 9th and March 10th. So those are after-school events that we'll have. And board members, if you're interested in attending, you're certainly welcome. It's not an expectation. There was no expectation last time when we went through the budgeting process, but you're certainly welcome to attend any of those events that you'd like. But it's an opportunity for us to share our information and hear from the public about where we are. We also, again, as I said, because of when we're learning about these things, we're learning about where we're at with our costs. These are things that we're moving more quickly than we were able to last time. We were able to spend more time. We had individual meetings at each of our schools, but we still believe it's important to reach out and have opportunity like this. I also suggested that at our next Committee of the Whole meeting, which is coming up on March 3rd, which is coming up on March 3rd, otherwise known as next Tuesday, because it comes quickly, we're looking at having more information on the budgeting process. And Executive Director Zunich, I'm giving you a little head nod because we talked about that during our Committee of the Whole agenda setting, but I just want to make sure that we are able to go more deeply into that during our Committee of the Whole. I feel daggers in my back right now. No, just kidding. But we do want to make sure that we're sharing as much information as clearly as we can. We've been meeting behind the scenes and spending a lot of time on this, and we want to make sure that we're able to share it very clearly with the board. I'd also say to the board and public that this has been a very, very busy time when we've talked about some of the impacts of the immigration enforcement and the Operation Metro Surge. When we say we're spending 40% of our time, or that we were spending 40% of our time in preparation and dealing with things related to that had impact on our ability to be as communicative and as clear as we had hoped on some of the other things. So we apologize if some of these things are feeling a little bit rushed. It's really trying to make sure that we are doing things as diligently as possible, but also knowing that there has been impact. And I mentioned the state role in things. We met with our local legislative representatives here in this room on January 27th during our work session, and they were very, very interested in supporting us in ways that they could. There isn't a lot of money there at the state level, but they were very interested in different ways that they might be able to free up use of things. One thing that caught a lot of interest, for instance, was if we were able to use our long-term facilities money for safety-related expenditures. That normally it's used for roofs and repairing and things like that. But if we're able to use that for safety, that means that one of the big priorities of the legislature could be met without necessarily having to find new funds to do it. It would just give local control to school boards to be able to do what they need to do. We also attended the Association of Metropolitan School Districts legislative preview on February 6th. We had a presentation from Commissioner Jett, as well as a panel of Republican and Democratic leaders who shared both from the Senate perspective and the House perspective where they were on different subjects. And I think that what we did see is that even though sometimes we see clashing on different issues, and there were some differences, there was also a lot of common ground. And I think that people are trying to find common ground. And when we think about things like the Duluth Promise and CTE expenditures and things we can do to move forward on safety, those are all areas where there's a lot of bipartisan support. So we're looking for that as well. I know that we're also looking at going down for the MSBA MASA Day at the Capitol on March 9th. Board members, if you're interested, that's something that we can do. It's a Monday. And then we have our Duluth St. Louis County Days coming up on March 18th and 19th. And that's always a great opportunity for us to meet, to work with the chamber and to meet with people and talk about what our needs are. Again, what are we advocating for? We're advocating for improved funding. It's paramount to our district and others around the state. Increases in state aid, fully funding state mandated programs, and increasing special education cross-subsidy to fund true costs of educating all learners is needed. Those are just a summary of our legislative platform. And I thought I had it with me, but I had a copy of our legislative platform, but it's also on our website. But really, those are some of the key areas. We're also seeking additional funding for the Duluth Promise, student mental health, and expanding the diversity of our workforce are among our main priorities. So those are things we're looking for as well. So again, we've got the budget issue, but we also have the state that is responsible for funding education. And so those are very much linked, and we have to think about what are we doing to make sure that we are helping our legislators see what our needs are so that they can more fully fund education and also avoid unfunded mandates in the future. A little bit on our litigation. As you know and has been made public, we joined in a lawsuit against the federal government suing for return of protected status for schools related to immigration enforcement. This guidance was in place for several decades and ensured that schools, along with hospitals, places of worship, and other locations, were safe for learning and safe for the activities that occurred there. Again, it worked for decades, and so we're just asking for a return of that. Fridley Public Schools and Education Minnesota are also plaintiffs in the lawsuit, which was filed in court yesterday. So there was some press related to that. And we also received a lot of praise and support from a lot of other districts around the state. I had a stack of handwritten notes from various educators across the state that were just really positive about what we're doing and standing up for our neighbors. And interesting, the superintendent for Fridley Public Schools will be speaking tonight at the alternative State of the Union address as one of the keynotes. So who knows, Duluth might get a shout out. I don't know for sure, but I know that we'll be standing there with her in spirit. But I think that's really, really important too. We're also seeking damages for the time and resources spent planning for potential immigration enforcement within our schools. And I hear a lot from the public that, why are you doing this? They're not really going into schools. Why are you doing this? There have been instances where they've gone into schools, but really there haven't. It's more about when they take away the guidance that says that they can't come in schools and that they won't come into schools unless there are serious circumstances. There's no need to do that. It basically just creates additional chaos and additional work and additional fear. And just simply if they're not going to come into schools anyway, just put the guidelines back in place and we'll be in a better place. So that's what we're asking for. And we're taking the stand to support our neighbors, also the schools in the metro area, as well as those around the country. Some people have said, since Operation Metro Surge is coming to an end, why do we even need to have this lawsuit? There still is going to be immigration concerns. And also, I was at a superintendent's conference, National Superintendent's Conference, and speaking with superintendents from Arizona and California and other places. They have these same concerns, and they're just waiting for this type of activity in their states. And so by us standing up early, I'm proud of Duluth Public Schools, proud of our board, and just want to say thank you for doing what you're doing for not just our kids, not just our parents, but the children across the whole nation. Questions?
Okay. Member Lowfald.
Who is doing questions? So thanks for a great, thank you, student reps, and it's really nice to meet you this evening, and we'll really enjoy having you at our school board, so thank you. And thanks for the report and all of the different activities going on at East. That's great. I just want to comment, I'll go back a little bit to the legislative platform. And I have two questions, really. One is on the safety, on the LTFM ask, and I remember when you shared that with Representative Johnson, and he showed great interest, as those are the kinds of things we want to hear more of. So please
let's keep our thinking caps on in our district leadership for those little nuggets, because when we go down in March, and those would really resonate. And I would like some kind of a written out kind of guidelines so that when we have the opportunity, and I'm sitting right across from Senator Swazinski, and I know he listens to Duluth because he's grew up in Superior and he loves to talk about that. So I really want to be able to capture those little things. So you mentioned, though, Superintendent Magus, about if we could use long-term facility monies for safety. And I would just like you to elaborate on what do you mean when you say safety? Sometimes my mind goes to maybe enhanced cameras, or my mind goes to extra staff in our hallways as we navigate, because I know right now at both of our high schools, we're using administrative staff to check people back in every lunch shift, every kind of assembly, and those are positions that if that was considered safety by how we allow kids and students into our buildings. Just a little clarification on that, and then I have one other question after that.
My thoughts are that it would most likely be more specifically tied to physical changes in safety, like your first statement, the camera systems, maybe entry systems and buzzers, or right now we're working to put just very colorful, bright decals on our front entrances. People might be saying, oh, that's about spirit, but it's also about safety, because we're trying to make sure that we just don't have big glass windows looking into where people are working and learning. And so things like that. Also, hypothetically, sometimes there have been like building redesign where they have to do, a lot of the older schools, the offices were in the center of the school rather than near the doors. And so sometimes there's a need for that as well. So, thank you, sir. We have our copies of our legislative platform, and I also want to say thanks to our communications officer, Adele Wellens, who put this together, and also is the award-winning photographer who did the photography for all of this. And she loves to be in the limelight, so let's give a round of applause for communications officer Wellens.
Then my next question, so thank you for that clarification. I kind of thought that's where you were going to go with safety, since it's long-term facility monies, that it has to be more physical for doors and cameras. We can be creative with what other needs that is. And then I was listening to Minnesota Public Radio, and they were doing an overview too, or it might have even been the Minnesota School Board Association's overview of the legislative session. And I think they said something about the link currently to our what is it called, our student enrollment monies, that they have linked it to inflation. I know that passed in the legislature in 2023, and I've always wondered if they really are linking it to inflation. And then NPR said something about it was linked by like 13%. Do you think that sounded right to me?
So is that referring to our basic formula? Because that did go, is at 2.69%. The current year we're at 2.74, so they actually dropped it a little bit. So it's at 2.69% for FY '27.
And so and that included some inflationary?
Yes.
Okay.
We're getting.
I thought it was heard it was much more. And then just one last question or comment. I really, really appreciate the legislative, or the information on our litigation updates and our stepping forward. And I just want to shout out to our administration. I think some school board members might know because you came over to the Denfeld speech tournament, but we hosted a tournament at Denfeld for schools, speech teams across the state. There were 32 schools and over 600 students, and it was right in the thick of some of the heightened and really strong agitation going on in our metro areas. And I had schools coming to our school from outside our area, more from the metro. That's schools that come up to Duluth. They love the facilities and they love the tournament. And our administration and our administration at Denfeld really stepped up. And I was able to offer to all the schools coming and all of the students who at times have feared coming to schools in areas because of the ICE presence. They were able to come to Denfeld because we went out of our way to have administrative support during our whole day. So I had a team of administrators at Denfeld from 7 in the morning. Principal Tuscan went out there and high-fived the schools coming in, and we had extra protection in the hallways, kind of just keeping the hallways and the entrance from the gymnasium, which had some other activities going on, and kept those students safe as well. So I appreciate the work on the litigation. I appreciate that Duluth Public Schools is really making a strong presence in the fact that we care about safety and we care about our students coming. One of the things that I appreciated the administration doing is reaching out to extracurriculars. We have a plan. As a coach, I got the plan about how coaches are going to deal with it because we have all of our athletics and all of our fine arts going to different activities in different schools and different neighborhoods. And I want the community to know, and I want school board members to also know that our administration has really stepped up to make sure that we are following and have informed our coaching and extracurricular programs. So thanks a lot.
Thank you very much. And I think that's one of the things that we discover through this and any sort of emergency preparedness. I wouldn't say it's easy to think about the traditional times, but when you think about like, how do we keep kids safe when they're in class, in their classroom, that's kind of the standard thing we think about. But then you have to think about all the other variables. What do we do when students are on the buses? What do we do when students are at a field trip? What do we do when students are at an athletic event? What do we do when they're out on the playground at lunchtime? Like, those are all the other variables that need to be thought about, and appreciated that. And also the work that you did as a speech coach to make sure that your kids were feeling safe and emotionally secure.
Doesn't appear that we have any other questions. Oh, sorry.
That's all right. Thank you for everyone's reports and welcome to your first school board meeting. Exciting to have you here. And I know that you attended the district advisory committee meeting. So hopefully this is ever so slightly more exciting because we all have microphones too. I have just a clarification recognizing that MSBA, MASA Day at the Capitol is on March 9th. And it also appears that we have a feedback session for budget reductions scheduled for that day. So just making sure that we have the appropriate people who are able to be at both of those events, just flagging that for whoever needs to be flagged to. And then in terms of our budget reductions, I know there's going to be a lot of information going out to our community. There's a lot of information coming to the school board members at this time as well. And just recognizing as we talk about our legislative priorities, we all are going to be working very hard to represent our district and represent our students and our families, and sharing your stories when we are down at the Capitol and in our communications that we have with our state level electeds, as well as our federal level electeds. But just wanting to really empower our community. If these are not cuts that you are looking forward to either, know that you all have very powerful voices, and any communication, any time that you're able to step up and also share what any future reductions are going to mean to your family, to your students, that's going to help us make the case to better fund our schools. We all have difficult jobs ahead of us, and I'm glad that we have people who care so deeply about our students and about our community doing this work, but just wanted to really empower our community to also be part of that process, and hopefully we'll have ways where people can really step up and use their voices as well.
Thank you. So now I think we have no other feedback, so moving on to the next part is a report of our standing committees, and we have our committee of the whole report. So I'll turn that over to Assistant Superintendent Bonds.
Thank you. The COW meeting was held on February 5th. And of course, our COW meeting focuses on items connected to our strategic plan and making sure that we are aligned with all of our planning. Under the category for advance and equity, there was a presentation provided by our Director for Advancing Equity, Maritza Garvik Herrera. She provided an update related to the American Indian Ed resolution for concurrence or non-concurrence. So the items that we are working on as a district to meet the recommendations that came from our APAC last year that we are addressing this year. And so I want to thank her for her work in finalizing that draft of where we are in that programming as well as those goals. We also had a verbal presentation provided by our Parent Advisory Committee, our APAC. I want to thank them for attending and all of their efforts to spend a lot of time and energy developing recommendations. They provided a resolution. Unfortunately, they provided a resolution that the district was in non-concurrence for the year because of for not meeting what they believe are goals and the things that they would like us to achieve. And so that verbal presentation was, again, provided by our APAC. And under supporting every student, we had a presentation by our director for secondary schools, Director Jen Larva, Cindy Miller, our media specialist, Greg Krieger. He is our director for technology. It actually was a presentation on AI. So we had a presentation related to artificial intelligence implementation. We want to make sure, as you heard tonight during the listening session, we want to provide additional information on our implementation plans. And I want to thank that team for coming and sharing how we were attempting to roll out our AI plan and Gemini implementation. And so just want to say thank you to them. And as you can hear from tonight's conversation, and you also received that communication, we as a district have decided to press pause on the implementation or rollout of Gemini to our secondary students at this point in time. And I also want to thank Jason Crane and Laura Thurston, who are our directors for special education. He's the director and she's the assistant director. They provided a status update related to our special education programming. Again, I want to thank them for taking the time to provide us with data and insights on how we are trying to meet the needs of our students with special needs. And it was a full meeting, and I want to thank the team for all of their work and efforts for that meeting. So thank you.
Do we have any questions on our Committee of the Whole presentation? Thank you, Assistant Superintendent Bonds. Moving on, we'll have Member Sadowski with her giant binder to give our presentation on HR Business Services. Over to you, Chair.
Yes, we met on February 9th. Doesn't seem like that long ago, but it was, for our HR Business Services meeting. At that meeting, I always say they're on YouTube too, so I do have a giant binder and we go through everything thoroughly. I really appreciate Member Banks and Member Mikesell and their work on that committee. And then we have a really good discussion. So at this meeting though, and I just share for the public, I'll kind of give some highlights, things that I thought that stood out to the committee, maybe things where we had questions on it. But I really do encourage everyone who's interested in that to you can watch the YouTube, you can certainly email me if you have any questions. But with that, I'll just kind of go over the overview. So for our HR report, one thing that I wanted to highlight was that we hired a new human resources manager, Rebecca Lester. So just want to say congratulations to her. She worked in our district, has worked in our district previously and was an internal hire. So we're really glad to see that we can have upward mobility and a career pathway here too. So I always appreciate hearing that and appreciate everyone's work on that hire. A special thank you to our director, Stephen Johnson, on that. Then I would highlight our enrollment report. For our enrollment report, I always like the graph, and there's a lot of information and numbers, and I really appreciate the work that is done on our enrollment report to kind of look at, how has the enrollment changed per school? How does it compare to last year at this time? So there's a lot of information to decipher. But if you look at page 7, or at least in my packet, you'll see that our enrollment went up this last month. Again, so it ebbs and flows, and sometimes there's a trajectory of it lowering over time throughout the school year because of people graduating or students graduating early and things like that. But it's just really good to see that our enrollment continues to be up, and I think it's a testament to a lot of the great work that's happening in our district. For our facilities report, there are a lot of projects listed that are happening all across the district. But I would just highlight that our First Street building remains underway and on schedule, which I think is important to highlight. I really appreciate the work of Brian Brown on that and all of the other staff and the contractors for their work in making that a nice space for many programs. Then I would highlight our safety report, which for me was on page 11. Is it on 11? Well, it was before page, it didn't have a page number, but we have our safety report. And our total case incident rate for January was 0.9225, which is very, very low. So just give a shout out to everyone for their attention to safety in our district. So I would highlight that. That was good news. For our technology report, we continue to replace aging smart boards and projectors in our secondary schools, several classrooms at a time. We're prioritizing rooms where this technology has completely failed or is producing, a terrible image quality that could hinder learning in the classroom. So appreciate the work on replacing those. We also filled the network architect position, which has been open for a really long time. So that was really good news. We hired Nick Kraus, and so we want to welcome him. I'm not sure if he started yet or not, but he will soon. And he's coming to us from the Hill City area. And then for our transportation report, right now we're kind of moving into comprehensive future planning is underway for the summer, for next fall already, in addition to just obviously continuing to maintain our routes, maintain our the safety of our school buses and all of that. So they're juggling both of those things. And then they always have some stats in the spotlight. So between the district and Voyager, we run 178 vehicles for student transport. And this includes vans at the sites that we maintain. So a lot of vehicles out on the road getting our kids to school. For resolutions this month, we have the resolution for donations to Duluth Public Schools on page 13. I always just like to say we really appreciate the support of our community for donations to our schools and a lot of the needs that we have. So just thank you to everyone who gave some donations. And then our financial report, for me, that's on page 16. We heard from Superintendent Magus in his superintendent report about and we know because we've had meetings about it and are thinking about it a lot, but our budget strains that we have right now. So I would highlight that we are, a couple of the lines here do kind of reflect some of those strains that we have, right? So if you look at under the expense column in Fund 1, we are at about 50% of budget, whereas this is about 7% higher than we would like it to be this time of year. So we do see that strain happening. And then another one, maybe it's not quite related to our budget. I think it's more of just like the projects that we have going on. But I would, just in case you were concerned, I would mention Fund 5, which is the operating capital. We're at 103%. So we're not going to be obviously spending any more out of that line item. We're going to be utilizing LTFM funds for our operating capital needs, kind of moving forward. So I just wanted to point that out. And of course, we'll continue to keep an eye on the budget and do what we can to be, as a board and as an administration. I really appreciate the work of everyone to make some hard decisions in the next few months. That's going to be really hard. Fundraisers are on page 17, and we see that there was a few different fundraisers. There's one at Lakewide Lakewood, which was a school-wide fundraiser. One at Laura MacArthur for, they were selling Duluth coffee to go to Wolf Ridge. Lester Park was doing a school-wide box tops campaign. And also, they did a fundraiser to go to Wolf Ridge. And then Lincoln Park, they did a Chick-fil-A community fundraiser for some 6th grade classes. And then our Duluth East debate team was down bagging groceries at Lakeside. My kiddo was down there and had a good time, and they raised some good cash for the debate team. Then let's see, what else did I want to highlight here? For our bids, RFPs, and quotes, those are important. So we had 3 RFPs come along this time. We had RFP 340 for professional auditing services. We had RFP 341, which is for our district capacity study. And then we had an RFQ, so a request for quote, for the Homecroft media furniture. So those were our RFPs this time around. And then under miscellaneous, I thought I would point out our no-cost contract, because that was interesting. It's always good to have a no-cost contract, right? Versus a cost. This no-cost contract is basically an MOU with True North Goodwill, who will partner with the Duluth Adult Education and Yes Duluth to provide support for 12 opportunity youth, which is 18 to 24, in earning their GED and high school diploma, gaining construction experience, and developing leadership and work readiness skills through the Minnesota DEED Youth Build Grant. So I really appreciated seeing that community collaboration on that. And then one of the last things that I would point out, and then I'll open it up for questions. If there's any questions or comments, that's always welcome. For our change orders, let me turn to the right page here. 103. For me, it's page 103. Lots of pages here. So we had all of these just normal change orders. If you did watch the HR Business, we did ask about the Intercon group change order for facilities. This was due to changes to HVAC and door undercuts and additional fieldwork orders, door hardware changes, and a raised floor demo and repair on the First Street build-out. As we've talked about, a lot of times in construction projects, there's things that maybe are uncovered during the demo that they just can't identify beforehand, and so those change orders come up. But I did email Brian Brown about that, and I was just curious about, who else had bid on this particular project, that sort of thing. So Intercon was the only one that submitted a full bid for this project, and so far we've received, just a handful of change orders so far from Intercon. And generally, these have been related to coordinating with existing and unknown conditions. So I felt good about that answer and felt good about kind of where we were at with that particular change order. But I always want to ask if I see one that's significantly higher. Any questions or comments or things that I missed? If Member Banks or Member Mikesell has anything to add from our meeting? Great, thank you.
I have a couple things to add, if I could. Sorry.
Superintendent Megas, sorry about
Yeah.
that.
No, I think you brought up some really good questions there were various questions from various members, but some of the things that were brought up, just thinking about bids, in quotes, for instance, with change orders, making sure that we keep a close eye on that, because if somebody gives us a low bid, but then has a bunch of change orders, for instance, and then all of a sudden the cost is higher than it might have been for a competitor, we want to make sure that we're keeping an eye on that. And then also thinking about the district capacity study work, wanting to make sure that we're clear about that too, what our rationale was, that there were 3 bids and we went with the lowest bid, but it was also a bid that focused more specifically on the actual question, which was around doing a demographics study as opposed to demographics and community engagement. And really, until we know what the demographics report says, we won't know how much community engagement we need. If if it turns out to be the tweaking of some boundaries between a couple of elementary schools, I think we can handle that work ourselves with engagement through maybe using a partner lightly or using thought exchange or things like that. Just wanted to point out that there was really good dialogue during that HR business meeting, and I think that the poignant, thoughtful questions really are speaking to what we talked about before, trying to make sure that we're good fiscal watchdogs of our scarce resources.
Thank you. Member Loeffler-Kemp.
I just, kind of in follow-up to what you were talking about with the district capacity study, and I did listen to the meeting, but it feels like it was a long time ago when I listened to it. But can you talk a little bit more about the kinds of experiences or what other school districts that who we have chosen to go with the capacity study? Who else they're working with?
Sure.
Their experience.
Sure. So TeamWorks International, they've done work with us too, with working on our strategic plan. So, and I'm getting to answering the question, but they know our district and have done work with us. They actually, I just learned this yesterday. Yes, they did some capacity work for us back in 2018 as well. So there was some work there done, but also they've done work for many larger and smaller school districts. But a couple of examples of their larger districts that they've done in the recent past were the Racine School District, which is a three high school district. I want to say they probably have twice as many students as us, maybe a little more. They're one of the top 5 in Wisconsin. They're one of the largest of the 5 districts. And then they also just completed a school district in Oklahoma. They had, I believe, 20,000 students. So they've done a lot of work with more complex, larger systems. And we feel comfortable with the quality of their work related to the demographics work, but also other work that they've done leads us to believe that they want to produce a high-quality experience for us.
Thank you for that. Can you share what school districts in Minnesota they've worked with recently?
Let me think. I would need to get back to you on that, but I certainly could. I know they primarily work with Minnesota school districts, and so I would have to reach back out. But when it came to some of those, districts,
and I'm particularly concerned about the demographic study piece of it. I know they do great work in other avenues, and we've have enjoyed working with them as a board. I'm just kind of curious about the demographic study piece, having experienced demographic studies from over the years on my board.
I'd be glad to get that information, get it back to the board. I could shoot a text now, but I don't know if we'd get an answer before the end of the meeting, but we might, because I think that they're interested. So let me see what I can do.
I think that, any other questions for? Great. Now we'll move on to the policy committee and Member Loeffler-Kemp.
Okay, the policy committee met on Thursday, February 12th, and just like the HR committee, our meetings are available to listen to the discussions and you can get to it on our website. We had a great meeting though, and we have one policy for first reading. It's policy 542. And this is the intra-district transfers, and it's renumbering and updating from the 50/40 transfers within the school district policy. And really appreciate the work our staff did as a committee in making sure our language met MDE's language, and that it brought it up to date to the processes and the current policies that we're using. But the purpose of this policy is to establish the process and criteria for students to request attendance at a school or program within the district other than their assigned attendance boundary school. And just because this could be confusing, I want to clarify that this is an intra-district transfer, is defined as when a Duluth Public School student is enrolled at their attendance boundary school, requests to attend a different school or program within the district other than the one assigned by address. And the intent of the intra-district transfer policy is to minimize disruption of the education process for the student by maintaining continuous attendance in a school setting with their peers. And the district is committed to providing students with appropriate learning options that enable them to establish and maintain a successful education plan. And so again, just really appreciate the work that went into updating this and a lot of good language changes and making sure it matched our processes and matched our kindergarten enrollment and enrollment deadlines and things like that. So really appreciate that. The only piece of this that we really asked them, the committee, to go back and look at had to do with the appeal process and that parents could have, and then also the committee with the appeal process. So we'll be getting an update in our next meeting on that. Again, this is up for the first reading, and the last time this was reviewed was actually back in 2014, so it needed an update. We also then, for second reading, had policy 612.1. This is development of parental involvement policies for Title I programs. Again, replacing 1067, parent community involvement policy. And this again is, the purpose of this policy is to encourage and facilitate involvement by parents of students participating in Title I in the educational programs and experiences of students. The policy shall provide the framework for organized, systematic, ongoing, informed, and timely parental involvement in relation to decisions about the Title I services within the school district. The involvement of parents by the school district shall be directed toward both public and private school children whose parents are school district residents or whose children attend school within the boundaries of the school district. And again, Dr. Sharon, principal, and Dr. Darren Sheldon did a lot of work on this policy and reviewing it and bringing it to us, and there were no changes after our first reading that you heard about last month as well. And then we had regulations and forms, and they have to do with the policy 542R intra-district transfers. Again, renumbering and updating to 5040R student transfers. And again, the updates really followed some of the updates within the policy, made it clearer and cleaner as well. And so we appreciated being able to get that as informational. And then we, as we have been doing, looked at a whole series of our 1,000 series. And so this month it was policies under 6,000. And I just want to find my notes here. We looked at 29 of the policies under the 6,000 series. And we are bringing to you to delete just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of them at this point. The others will go back to the different committees of staff to review more. Again, really appreciate our executive assistant, Patty Paquette, for doing a lot of the research on the 6,000 series and making recommendations to us. But the ones that we're are recommending deleting is policy 6045, school libraries. We've already replaced that with policy 606.5, and we did that on 9/2025. 6055, elementary school day, again, replaced with, or in 602, which we adopted 9/2025. 6065, emergency evacuation of schools. That's embedded in policy 806 and 807, which we adopted in 2025. And also it's a part of our emergency planning procedures that we just recently had an update on. And then policy 6070, United States flag display, that's already in our policy 531. Policy 6100, high school day, that's in policy 602. 6105, scheduling of secondary classes, also in policy 602. And then the last one that we felt we could delete is 6200, educational television, outdated. Those are the policies at this point that we recommend deleting in the 6000 series. And again, appreciate the work staff did to bring that forward. And all of this will be on the consent agenda for you to vote on. Any questions? And thank Member Williams and also Member Lofold who serve on this committee with me as well this year. Thank you.
Thank you for those updates from the committees. Do we have any general board committee updates from anything the board members attended this month in their other roles as board members? Member Mike Sell.
Yes, earlier this month, I attended the Wellness Committee on behalf of the board. An excellent group of people from a wide variety of backgrounds serve our district in reviewing the Wellness Committee under our Wellness Coordinator, Simone Zunich, who runs an excellent meeting. And they are reviewing our wellness policy, 533, and we'll eventually have a proposal and suggestions for the policy committee to take up.
Thank you. Member Sadowski.
Yep, I just wanted to thank Member Loeffler-Kemp for attending APEC in my stead on February 4th. Really appreciate that, and I'm looking forward to attending the next one in March. I can't believe it's March already. I attended the Head Start Policy Council meeting on February 12th. Just wanted to thank Barbara, the director over special ed, just for her work on that. We've got a great group of parents and really appreciate their input on a lot of different policies and just feedback on the education of their Head Start and preschool students. Got a great group. And then I'm also I'm going to attend the Parent Advisory on Special Ed this Thursday before heading off to East Conferences. But I'm looking forward to that. They've got a few really engaged parents, and I think we talked about it at a previous meeting, but they're going through kind of a curriculum that was parent-driven that they wanted on kind of advocating for your student. So I've been learning a lot and looking forward to that. And then I think it's last month I attended the district advisory meeting with Member Mike Sell. And I just sent Assistant Superintendent Bonds, I sent you an email, because I don't see the next one on my calendar. Are those monthly or quarterly? District Advisory Committee meetings, I don't want to miss that.
We have them established already. I will send you an invite.
Thank you, and I apologize if I missed that. I appreciate that. It was a really busy month, so great, thank you.
Thank you. Member Williams.
Before I go into mine, I do have a follow-up question for Member Sadowski. I know you did not attend APEC this month, but moving forward, are you attending APEC and Title VI and JOM or just APEC?
No, I conferred with the board and leadership, and our commitment is to the APEC.
Just APEC. Okay. I
Yeah.
was just curious.
Thank you for asking that. I mean, I suppose if there's other,
It's so
it could
many
be a kind of a
meetings.
board conversation if other board members would like to attend some of those other ones. But as it is, for me, I'm Unfortunately, as much as I'd love to attend them, I don't have the capacity with the
Way too many
5 or
meetings.
6 other that I'm attending.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and-
that
and
was
think-
just a
yeah.
curious
No,
question.
and I
Yeah.
appreciate the question,
I
just to
walked-
clarify.
I happened to walk by, I don't remember which meeting was happening this week, and I just tucked my head in and said hello. And yeah, that I'm not on the committee, but just hello. So I was curious.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, Member Sadowski and I both are on that committee, and I did confirm when we went to the training, I don't remember where that was in Cloquet. We went to that training, yeah, that our obligation is to the APAC committee and then not the other.
Yeah. Okay, so this year I am on the, let me turn to the page I'm on, sorry. Yeah, I am sitting next to Member Sadowski so long, it's rubbing off on me. The Professional Development Advisory Committee. And so I attended my first meeting in February, taking over for Member Mike Sell. It was my first one, so it was a lot of information, and I feel like I was kind of playing catch-up a little bit. But Annie Schilling runs the meeting with 7 other staff members, and they talked a lot about just kind of creating the professional development days and the different trainings that we provide to staff throughout the year. There was a lot of talk this time about the specific facilities professional development days, sorry, PD days. That's why people say PD, it's easier to say. And those took place over the winter break while all the buildings were closed. And that's about it. I'll have more to say next month, or whenever the next one is.
Thank you. Member Loeffler Kemp.
Okay, thank you. 2 things. One is I serve on the Duluth Public Schools Endowment Fund, and I wanted to thank communications person Adele Lillings for really helping to spread the word to our staff across the district about that grant opportunity through the Boreal Foundation and the Duluth Public Schools Endowment Fund. Last night at midnight was the deadline, so I hope a lot of staff got their grants in at midnight last night or by then. And then the second thing I wanted to just give an update on, and it's not really a committee I serve on, I'm kind of wearing my work hat, but but it also involves the school district, is this Saturday is a family festival at the depot from 10 to 2. It's free event. It'll be a lot of resources for families, and ISD 709 early childhood, as well as our immersion programs are going to be having tables there as well as a resource to the community. And I just wanted to put a plug to come to that free event to learn more about our early childhood programs in the district, as well as our immersion programs, but also many community groups will be represented. So thank you.
Thank you. We will now move on to, excuse me, our consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Member Loeffler Kemp, Member Lofeld moved the consent agenda. Do I have a second? Oh, there. Member Williams has a second. Do we have any discussion on the consent agenda? Seeing no further discussion on the consent agenda, all those in favor of passing the consent agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The consent agenda has passed. And I just, to my fellow board members, I just want to apologize. I got distracted and did not assign resolutions, so I think we're going to start with Member Williams, and then we'll move across for the resolution. So, Member Williams, give everybody a minute to get their papers gathered.
That'd be great.
Would you please read the resolution for acceptance of donations? Thank you, Member Williams.
You're very welcome. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to speak into the microphone once again. All right, I move Resolution B-2-26-4155, whereas Minnesota statute 465.03 requires a school district to accept donations by resolution expressed in the terms prescribed by the donor in full, and whereas acceptance of the donations in accordance with the donor's terms is in the best interest of Duluth Public Schools, now therefore be it resolved that the Duluth Public Schools does accept the below described donations from said organizations in accordance with the terms set forth herein. Be it further resolved that the Duluth Public Schools wishes to extend its grateful appreciation to these various individuals and organizations. And as always, I will highlight just a few for Denfeld from community members, sorry, and I didn't look at these beforehand. I apologize going off the fly.
That's my fault.
A few to East High School for Key Club. Yeah, toaster oven was donated to Lakewood. And yeah, quite a few to Lincoln Park Middle School. So as we say every single month, we thank our generous donors.
You did forget that it was also an air fryer donated to Lakewood, so.
I am so sorry. An air fryer is just as good as a toaster oven.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Member Micah still has seconded. Do we have any discussion?
I have a comment. I think a air fryer does a better job of toasting things up than a toaster oven.
I was not passing judgment on either appliance.
All right. Now we have no further discussion. We'll take that discussion offline for later. Do all those in favor of passing the resolution, please say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Member Sadowski.
I move resolution SP-2-26-4156. This is a resolution for school board member attendance at MSBA and MASA Day at the Capitol. Resolved that Independent School District 709, St. Louis County, Minnesota, pay costs incurred as per district policy for school board members to attend MSBA MASA Day at the Capitol.
Do I have a second? Second. Member Lofald is seconded. Do we have any discussion?
Yeah, I would just say, this is part of the work that we do as school board members, kind of outside the board table. There's a lot of work that goes into the lobbying behind the scenes, including the legislative platform. And so I really appreciate, I can't go to this one, I'll be going to the Duluth St. Louis County Days, but I really appreciate my colleagues. We're a really strong board and a strong team, and I appreciate those of you that can go down there. Thank you.
Do we have did I got a second, right? Okay, sorry. Do you have any other discussion? Seeing no discussion, all those in favor of the school board member attendance at MSBA MASA Day at the Capitol, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Member Mike Sill.
I move resolution SP 2-26-4157, resolution for school board member attendance at Duluth and St. Louis County Days at the Capitol. Resolve that Independent School District 709, St. Louis County, Minnesota, pay costs incurred as per district policy for school board members to attend the Duluth and St. Louis County Days at the Capitol event held in 2026.
Do we have a second? Member Williams has seconded. Do we have any discussion? Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Member Eder will take the next one. The School Board of Independent School District 709, Duluth, Minnesota, enters into a contract with Anthony Bonds, herein referred to as an employee. So I move this employment agreement between the district and Assistant Superintendent Bonds forward. Do I have a second? Thank you. Member Banks has seconded it. Do we have any discussion? Just for clarification for the public, when we have these types of negotiations, when we have these single contracts coming in front of the board, I just want to explain the school board's role in it. actually, we only have direct supervision and evaluation and ability to negotiate contracts with one employee in this district, and that's the superintendent. So we did that earlier. The superintendent takes care of supervision, evaluation, and negotiation of these contracts that are coming forward in front of us tonight. So I just want to have that clarification put forward for our public. Do we have any other discussion? Superintendent Magus.
Sure. And just for posterity, we always want to make sure that we're looking externally and having an outside lens on things. When we created the individual contracts for the assistant superintendent and executive director of human resources and executive director of business services back in 2024, we had a pretty extensive external study done to look at the cost of contracts and the cost of living and all of those factors. It was a 23-page report looking at what is the ratio that the average for those senior leadership positions is paid as compared to other districts in Minnesota. And so actually we had a second review of that which recommended that the rate of pay is a certain percentage, and so we negotiated within that percentage. And so I just wanted people to know that it's based on a percentage of my contract and the going rate for my contract, because that's become a question in the public as of late a little bit because of, new contract, and we're going through budget issues. Just to be clear, there was a study done recently of the top 30 size school districts, and formerly I was paid the least of the top 30, and now I'm near the middle of the pack, and so basically the representative salary increases are proportionate to that. But just wanted the public to know that this is market rate for superintendent and market rate for the senior leadership positions that we have, and so it's not done with capriciousness, and because I work very closely with Mr. Bonds and Executive Director Zunich, that I wanted to make sure that there were external eyes and external oversight when we're making decisions like this. So just out of financial posterity, I wanted to point that out before the board needs to vote on either of the contracts.
Thank you. Member Banks?
So I have a quick question. I want to make a comment, but should I make the comment after we do both of these, or can I make individual comments?
You can absolutely do whatever you'd like, Member Banks.
Okay, so what I will do is I will try to combine both of these together. I just wanted to take this time to thank Assistant Superintendent Bonds and Executive Director Simone Zunich for their exemplary leadership within our district. And yeah, that's all I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other discussion? Member Williams?
It's just the annoying proofreader in me. On page 2, part C, we changed it from 10 days to 12 paid holidays. We just didn't strike out the written word 10. That's all.
Oh, yeah. That's a good catch.
Thank you.
Seeing no further discussion, we have moved it. We have a second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Resolution passes. Member Lofald.
I'm making a motion that we accept in the School Board of Independence 709 enters into a contract with Simone Zunich, herein referred to as our employee, and that we have the contract before us, and I move that we accept this contract.
I seconded this contract. Do we have any discussion? I don't know, I just did it. Hold. I don't even know if I can do that.
I would just say, I would just echo some of the other sentiments. I really appreciate Executive Director Zunich's work with our budget, and she's always willing to kind of go above and beyond and answer questions, especially when I'm chairing the HR Business Services meeting, so thank you.
Do we have any other discussion? Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of the agreement, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Do we have any other questions? Seeing no other questions, do I have a motion to adjourn? Member Williams has moved. I will not second this one.
Second.
Member Sadowski will second this one. Do we have any discussion? Seeing no discussion, all those in favor of adjourning the meeting, please say aye.